Hey everybody, this is Brittany with Con Culture Podcast here with HG3 Cosplay as we give you our review of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Trey, are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's
Oh, I'm
do this.
ready. Let's do this. Why don't you give us a little synopsis of what we're about to review?
All right, yeah, we'll go into a little introduction and background of this series. One of the reasons I love this series so much is the author and creator of this is a San Antonio author, so a little hometown hero, Rick Riordan.
That's
He originally
cool.
wrote this for his son, um, kind of to give you like the Percy Jackson the Olympians beta, kind of like Clash of the Titans was the story he was trying to retell, and just his love of Greek mythology with his son. And then we have this series now that is loved by millions. And we had the what was it, the early 2000 films that had two films, and I think they were planning on doing more, but unfortunately, due to the box office lack of success, it did not continue forward, which made a lot of people more excited with this series because you could tell it more an episodic base.
It is definitely presented in a much more palatable manner than the movies, I will have to say. Um, let's go into some of the characters and what we liked. Let's just dig right into it. What are some of the characters that really stood out to you in the series?
Ugh, I loved them in the movies. I loved them in the books, which I didn't read all of them. I started the first book, but I didn't go into the other ones. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is Grover. I love a good satyr. And
We love
the
Grover.
yeah, the actor in this one was just so much hard.
Perfect.
He was perfect. Like he was just like he cared about Percy and he wanted to do
He
everything he
did.
could, even when times like he knew it was going to hurt Percy's feelings. And I absolutely loved this performance, and I could not get enough Grover.
Grover did really good. And you know what else that he really did for Percy too is kind of take Percy's abuse a little bit. When Percy gets upset with him or whenever the group is getting upset, he kind of just
Oh yeah,
takes that load. Then whenever he's like, I'll stay with Ares, it's fine. Like, I'll take it on. Like he's never complains at all during any of it. Like he's always like so cool to do any of it. I actually
sweet
think
sweet boy.
Annabeth is my standout. Is
Oh
definitely yes. I loved Annabeth, and I don't want to like do like a back and forth comparison between the cinematic and the series.
yeah.
That's not really very fair, but I do say that I felt that she portrayed the book version of Annabelle very, very well. It made it very believable. She was very angsty like
Oh
Annabelle.
yeah.
She definitely could tell that she was ready to scrap. Like, yes, she was pretty, but like she made me believe she was more of a warrior than a pretty face, and that's what I felt like Annabeth embodied, and she did it very, very well. Like I definitely believed her wholeheartedly. Like when she was like trying to boss him around, like, no, I will go get the food, you will stay here.
She was the mom of the group, 100%. Like
She
I got
was
to keep these two
great.
guys, these two knuckleheads together, or we're not going to get this quest
Yes.
done.
Yes, absolutely. I loved her. I mean, Medusa was another one I absolutely
Oh
adored. Oh, gave me made me uneasy. Like
yes.
I had like chills. Like I was like, oh, like she really crept me out. And I loved how it wasn't like titled like her property wasn't titled like Medusa, it was titled like M. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, that was tricky, tricky.
Oh yeah.
What about you?
No, she was fantastic. Medusa was amazing. I loved the it's kind of back and forth. I'm trying to torn because some of the portrayal of the gods I thought were spot on, and then some of the other gods I thought were like, maybe not so much. Like Dionysus,
Which
I
one?
thought was hysterical. Or they called him Mr. D. And like, for those who
Yeah.
don't know who Dionysus, he's the god of wine. And it was so funny. It was like, well, Zeus has prohibited him to consume any alcohol, and here he is trying to coax Percy, like, hey, go get this nice bottle of wine out of the cellar, and I'll be your dad.
Like a teenager, like, hey, can you go into this gas station and buy
Yeah,
me some
hey,
beer?
Mister. Like he was
Yes.
hysterical. And then I know we talked a little bit about before the recording. You weren't a big fan of this character, but I thought the casting was spot on. Um, the actor that played Ares, some of you may know him as the Edge from WWE, which I think was just even more perfect. Like he was just ready to brawl. He's ready to
He
fight.
he came on screen, and from the moment he came on screen, his attitude, his body language, I was like, am I watching Supernatural right now? Because he is straight up Dean Winchester to a T. I mean, he's just like, hey, we could do this, or you could fuck around and find out.
Yeah,
Like,
your funeral buddy.
your funeral, buddy. Like, I really don't care either way, but I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Like,
I thought he was spot
he,
on.
great. He was great. I agree.
And then this one was bittersweet. Lance Reddick as Zeus, rest in peace. So it's going to be very, very sad to see him not portray Zeus anymore because I thought he was absolutely perfect as Zeus.
He did a
Um,
very good job.
but yeah, he will be sorely missed.
Yes, he will be. Yes, Zeus was very good. I mean, I really can't complain when it comes to any of the portrayals of the character. Um, the plot, though, for me, I mean, if I were to be honest, I don't like the fact that every single episode was like, I'm gonna risk my life. No, I'm gonna risk my life. And I'm like, I know that's how the story goes, but it was like every single episode
It's a little
it
much.
was like Annabeth and Percy fighting over who's going to sacrifice themselves. And I'm like, okay, come on. I mean, like, I think if the episodes maybe had spaced them out and stretched them out a little bit more, it
Yeah,
wouldn't have felt like they were so on top of one
the
another.
pacing
I
was
mean,
my biggest complaint of the plot.
yeah, I struggled with that only because I'm like, I mean, we're already to the conclusion and then on to the next. Oh my God, we're gonna die, and I'm like, this is going. I mean, we are burning through it
And I was
like
jealous of
fast.
you because like I was watching it week by week, and you got to watch them all. I was like, man, I should have done that because it was painful for me sometimes. I know we're both binge watchers, and I know
I
Gigi and
am.
Juan are big episodic fans, but like this one was hard to watch week by week because it was just like, ah, what's next?
I watched it when it first released, the first two episodes, and then I literally waited until the finale
I should have done
aired, and
that.
then I binged it all. But no, you shouldn't have, because then it felt like those moments were more on top of each other than
Okay.
maybe if I had spaced it out. Because I watched them so on top of one another, it felt like I'm just like, oh, here we go. Oh, Percy's in trouble again, someone better
I'll save
sacrifice their life.
us.
Oh, someone's gonna save their life. Oh, and I'm just like, it was like, man, it felt very rushed when you watched it like that. So I think that's probably why they released it the way they did, because otherwise it would be too much for the palate. Like, it was like I was getting smacked in the face with like CGI, and there's just so much to take in and
Speaking of
absorb.
CGI, what did
Visual
you think of
effects.
the effects?
I think the effect moment for me was the devil dog coming out of
Oh,
that cave.
Serbius.
I was like, he looks amazing.
Oh yeah,
I was so excited when he
terrifying
came.
and adorable.
Terrifying and adorable, and they capture that really, really well. I felt like I wanted to see much more of like of the magic of the gods. I feel like
Yeah,
we didn't get a whole lot of that. Mainly, we got it in more of like the demons that we saw,
yeah. That's what I'm
which was
hoping for
kind of
next
disappointing.
season.
But the Chimera was cool.
Oh yes, that was
The
such cool
Chimera is
design.
very cool. Yeah, that was really, really cool. I briefly remember that in the series. Like I don't remember that very well. So seeing that was kind of more of a new experience for me. I don't remember that part very much. But overall, the effects were really good. The sets looked great. The
Oh
costumes,
yeah,
the casting was good for me.
I loved the look of the underworld and then Mount Olympus, and then like we were
Yes.
talking Medusa's lair earlier. They
At
they
first, I was
nailed it.
getting mad as I was watching it because I thought that they changed who really the rat was at
Yes,
first. Because
I,
I'm
I
like,
was
it was
literally saying this. I
always
was
Hermie's
I'm
son.
like it's
I
Luke.
was
Like
like,
come on. And then they kept talking about the prophecy, and I'm like, maybe they'll wrap around. But it's like Ares wasn't his friend. And it was like,
I'm like, Aries, that's our big conclusion. I mean,
yeah,
I can see where you went, and I can understand, I can respect your creative difference, but, and then I was like, but I need it to be Luke.
yeah. It's got to
And
be
so
like the
when it
source
finally
material.
yeah, it's gotta like touch base with its source material. And I think that's what it did. I think it definitely tried to catch up in a sense, as how the
Yes.
series overall felt to me, was like it was catching up to maybe hopefully be able to see if it does well, to see if they do a second season, so
Yeah.
that way it can bust them out faster. Do I think it was as well put together as One Piece was, when it was like compacting a whole lot of information in
No.
a short period of time? No, I don't think they did as well of a job. But do I think it is absolutely beautiful, and would I watch it again? Yes. Um, I think some of the overall themes of the story is
Mm,
lost because of it being so sped up. You know, like that real dynamic between him and his dad, and some of the aspects of like the backstories of his mom. Like I feel like we didn't get very much of his mom, and his
yeah.
mom is such a huge role in that story. So those tidbits being skipped over made me feel like some of the core message of Percy Jackson and why he chooses to fight and everything. It was just like, hey, your mom's in the underworld. Let's go. And
Let's
I'm just
go.
like,
Going on an
I know
adventure.
that happens, but I'm like, it feels like it's not
No,
wasn't
there
as
was that.
intense.
I thought they did a good job though. Like I totally agree with you. There was a few moments I thought they redeemed themselves because I feel like my favorite message of the whole series was like you don't have to be just like your family. You know, you can be
Yeah,
better than them. You don't have to fall into the toxic traits of your family.
no.
And I thought they absolutely nailed that. That was my favorite message. The other themes, um, yeah, I think it was way too sped up to kind of truly like get the full effect of these themes that they were trying to go for. I'm hoping we'll get more of a payoff in the next season. Kind of to throw back to what you were saying earlier, you kind of wanted to see more of the gods' magic. That was my biggest complaint with the series, but like I feel like they kind of hinted at that at the end when they're fighting Ares, like when he turns into his true form, and that they couldn't look at him. So I'm hoping we'll get to see the gods in their true form next season because that's my favorite thing about Greek mythology. I want to see these gods, the prime action, with their full costume, with all their cool props and everything, doing their
I want to
thing.
see Kronos and his
In Tartarus,
beautiful
yeah.
form.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I want to see that. What would you give your final thoughts of the movie or
Um,
I mean
fi-
the series?
my final thoughts of the series. I definitely had to take a step back a few times because like I would get frustrated times like I definitely was not the target audience. And I kind of get up frustrated when people's like, well, this wasn't made for you. I'm like, there's tons of shows out there that were, quote, made for kids that do a great job of portraying these stories. Not to say that they didn't, but I feel like they were trying to do a little too much in this first season and putting a lot of eggs in this basket. But overall, I would totally watch the next season. Love this story. I love Greek mythology. So if you say Percy Jackson and Olympians, like, I'm in.
What would you rate it out of 10?
Ooh, ooh. I'm going to go with a 6.5.
6.5. 6.5. That's pretty good. That's
It's
pretty
like
good.
I think it could have been better. It was still great. I didn't absolutely hate it, but I think there was a little room for improvement, which I hope we'll get to see in the next season.
Yes, I can agree with that. I think that the casting was good. I think they found great people to encompass these roles and continue on this story and hopefully get it to its completion this time. And I think they picked a good group to do it with. They're all very charismatic in their own roles. Some of them are actors I really didn't know much about since they're so young, and
Oh yeah.
so some of them I was like, you're always a little iffy because you've seen a role what played by one person, and you're like, can this
Yes.
person play it? And I'm sure that makes the actor themselves like look inward, like, hey, am I going to be able to live up to this? But I think all of them lived up to those roles 100%. Do I think that the material that they were given, did do great? Absolutely. They nailed what they were given.
No.
Um, do I think that the story was sped up a bit? Yes. And I think that it hurt it for that. Do I think that they put in work? Yes. Do I think that they spent the money in visual effects? Yes.
Oh
Do
yeah.
I think that they could have spent more money though, showing off a little bit more? I think they could have.
Just a little bit.
Just a wee bit more. Just add a little bit, few more doll hairs in there,
Yeah.
okay? My final rating would probably be yeah,
6. Okay.
yeah. This little yeah. It's good and it's above average, but it's not my absolute favorite.
Do you
It's
think
not One Piece.
do you think your kids would like it?
Yes,
So
yes.
I think definitely like everyone I've talked to about this, they're like, this is a kid's show, it wasn't made for you. I'm like, I totally get you. So at the end of the day, it's like if everyone and their kids like it, I think that's a victory for them.
Yeah. I think it was a little darker than I think people gave it credit for. There
Oh
were
yeah.
some pretty dark moments in it. I mean, whenever Percy's mom gets taken and all that, there's some moments where it felt like I was even like, whoa,
Yeah, so maybe not the wee ones, but maybe like
like
7 and
you're
up.
young, like yeah, you're like your young, well, your youth, your
Yeah.
was that tween,
Yeah, the
your tween
tween,
age?
the middle
Yeah,
schoolers.
Yeah. I think it was good. I hope that they do another season and I would look forward to seeing it. I love the story of Percy Jackson, so I'm always encouraging it to be finished because it
Oh
can
yeah.
only get better from here,
Because like
right?
not to go back to the movies, it's like when they finished Sea of Monsters, there was I believe there was three or four other books after that one. So it's like it definitely had the fan base wanting more. So I hope
Yes.
this
I'm
series
like,
can give the fans what they want.
yes. Complete it, please.
Yes, completed. Go all the way through.
Was our review of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. You can catch more of our reviews on our YouTube channel and check out our podcast on anywhere you listen to your podcasts.